Thank you so much, and I apologize, and I'm very sorry for not being able to come for all the interesting conference all the days. I would like just to make some remark for both Felicia and Anna, and 2 days or 3 days ago, the president of Romania visited Yad Vashem, and there he said, he just finished now his visit to Israel, and then he said that they are going to establish a new Holocaust memorial or a museum in Romania, in Bucharest. So I wanted to ask if you know about it and who's going to be in the committee, and maybe to make the connection to Anna. Can I say some things about you? Anna and I got together in one conference in London, and with her help, I learned that there are a lot of materials of Holocaust survivors from Romania that immigrated to Australia. So maybe after this conference, if you are in this committee of the one who are going to create this Holocaust museum in Bucharest, maybe to make a connection of, because I know that a lot of Jews from Romania immigrated to a lot of other countries too, so just a small remarks, and thanks all of you for very interesting talks. Thank you. Just so okay, I had the privilege of knowing Dr. Boaz Cohen for a long time, and I taught here at this college at the beginning of the program of Holocaust studies, and now I teach at the University of Haifa and coordinate the Center of Research of Jews from Romania. So, in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, sorry. Okay, thank you.
I was struck by the big difference between the two Treblinka models, which are so different. And I was also, maybe, if I understood rightly, this is considered as an historical, didactical model, the one you have in the museum. It's not a piece of art. It's something you work with. But it certainly has a totally different approach to, and how we get, is this an historical tool, or is this something that is meant to move the people who are seeing it? So I'm asking, I just don't know. Another thing about enacting testimonies, I was just wondering about the idea of having children tell the stories in the first tense. Is this good educationally? And is it good historically? We were talking about second generation. Is it good that they will tell their parents' stories in the first tense? So what happens with a nice Romanian teenager telling atrocity stories in the first tense? I don't know, I'm asking. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of going to be a follow-up to what Boaz said, and this is a question to Anna. Do you think that if the author of this model were not a survivor, you would have it in your collection exhibition? I mean, was it the key factor? And I was waiting for you to mention Chapman's, and you did, and that would be this kind of counterexample.
Okay, I'll add one additional question as a follow-up, and then I'll turn it over to the panel. And this is really a question for all of you, and it sort of ties into something that Boaz pointed to, but it's been a theme that we've been discussing, which is sort of our struggle to deal with the question of, shall we call it, authenticity, historical fact, truth, whatever those loaded terms might mean. And it really strikes me here in this case when we're talking about representation and sort of straddling different genres and different disciplines, where you look both at a testimony for its historical context, for what it can tell you about what happened in the past, but also the fear that at times we might miss the emotional impact of the testimony, the actual text itself and what it's trying to express. And so I'm wondering if this is for all of you, if you see sort of visual representations, artistic representations, I think also in terms of, I think about this in terms of fictional literature, which fictionalizes the Holocaust, if this adds something to sort of our emotional understanding of the impact of the experiences of the Shoah.
Okay. Following Thomas' remark, I would like to ask you, are you acquainted with Zbignev's Libera Holocaust Out of Lego, this series done? Okay, this is a relatively young Polish artist who did 3 sets of Auschwitz made out of Lego. It was received relatively okay till it was displayed in the Jewish Museum in New York in, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8 years back, and then it was an explosion. When I saw your model, it's not the museum's model, I was thinking about it. I don't think it arose some controversy like the Zbigniew Libera ones. And I wonder, is it a question of embedding the place, contextualizing? I mean, if what was his name? Not Sherman, the carpenter who did the model. If he would have done it out of Lego and put it at the museum, I think I might think it would have been more acceptable than when Zbigniew put it at the New York Museum, at the Jewish Museum in New York, etc., etc. So this, I don't know. I don't have an answer. It just struck me and followed. Well, about the question, I'm not sure that we have to arise emotion, too much emotion, when we want to transmit the Holocaust. I'm not sure. Maybe we should, because as it is very emotionally charged. What I try to do in my courses is to try, I don't know if I succeed, I hope so, to make it more cognitive, to make it understandable. Why? Because as I see it, when you are very much impressed by something, okay, you are impressed. You are shocked, you are happy, you are in love, whatever, feeling it is new. But then you forget it. I mean, it passes. You had some kind of catharsis, and you go on. But if something annoys you, for instance, the example of mouse, why is it, it was like, it's more than almost 15, 16, 17, 20, let's say, years since the first mouse was published. And it's still agitating because it makes us uncomfortable, because it makes us think, because it arises some kind of controversy, as for instance the Lego or the Auschwitz Lego. So I think this is more, it's my very personal point of view, I think it's more important to think about it, to learn, to arouse curiosity. Why? What? How could I be in this? What would have I done in his, her place, etc., etc. I think about many times, you know, when, especially when I'm in a research, I think, what would I have done? For instance, if I would have wanted to run, okay, I would have, if once I was small, I would have taken, but my mother was aged. So, I mean, those kinds of, not only this hypothetical thought, but, you know, I think it's more important for me to arouse curiosity, intellectual curiosity, than appealing to the feeling, because to make you cry is very not complex. I think so. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Yeah.
To answer Tomasz first, if the model was, if someone who was not a survivor presented a model of that type to the museum, before my time, I don't think it would have been accepted. And I did try to show that Steir was involved with the centre from the beginnings. This is where the problem is, and the more I look at that model, the more troubling it is in terms of representation, accuracy, what other people are asking and questioning about. You know, to scale, it's not to scale, and what I was trying to explain about the distortions and the sensations that you'll feel when your eyes navigate through the layout, it may not comply with what we understand as reality. And something that I've been chatting about with other people is, and I don't know who can do a study on this, but I think that trauma and also starvation and malnutrition over a long period of time can affect memory and your understanding of spatiality and physicality. So I don't know if they're factors in how he has remembered and how he has drawn from his mental archive and manifested a reality from his recollections. And I wanted to, and by including his video testimony demonstrating in two parts, firstly, how he had such a clear recollection of events and could describe them in words in Yiddish. And you have the limitation of words, and particularly when someone does pass away, as we all will. How do you capture your mental recollections? One of the things I didn't get a chance to say was with the Częstochowa shul model, how people who had lived in Częstochowa, when they saw it, they couldn't believe how accurate it was, which I think demonstrates Steir's photographic memory. So that's also a problematic contribution to the understanding of the Treblinka model.
Regarding representations, I think that we should be very careful with representations, all sorts of representations, being it theatrical or filmic, anything else, as we should be careful with testimonies, and we are all aware of it. So maybe the right way to do it is to combine everything, and I don't think that representation and films cannot replace historic debate or historical issues, but they can add a new pillar or a new level of memory to this historical debate and open the floor for other discussions. And I don't know if you've noticed, but in the first scene that I've shown you, Dinur is roaming the streets of Tel Aviv, and he faces in the street refugee from Africa who's picking fruit from the ground and he's eating it. And they're standing across from one another, and I think what Claes meant to say is very obvious, and the way he wanted to say it in a very gentle way, he does it through docu animation. And this is very important because I think one of the most important things today in teaching about the Holocaust is not only teaching about the historical event, who stood where and how this looked like and so on, but also what can we learn from it, and what can we learn from it in the present and for the future. It is very, very important, and using these representations might help us to encourage, again, the young generations, the young audience, to think about it more deeply than merely as something that happened 70 years ago in another place, and taking it into their world, their visual world, and maybe understanding it better, maybe.
Right, so first question about the museum. It's not a Holocaust museum, it's a Jewish museum that we are talking about. Yes, the new one. That is, the state has decided some time ago to get involved into the improvement of the Jewish museum that already exists and which is organized by the Federation of Jewish Communities in Romania. The state decided to get involved by funding some improvement and some, let's say, increment of the museum by organizing a section in a National History Museum. Probably the National History Museum of Bucharest will host a special exhibition, a special part on Jewish history, which will include information about the Holocaust as well, but we're not talking about the Holocaust Museum as such. There is only one Holocaust museum in Romania, actually two. One of them is in Bucharest, and it's organized by the community, by the Jewish community, and that is in the Great Synagogue of Bucharest. And the other one is a private, literally private initiative in the former synagogue of Steir-Livny. For the rest, we don't have any Holocaust museum in Romania, and I'm not sure we will have one soon. So this initiative has been on for some time for the improvement of the Jewish Museum. And this will happen, and there is a lot of international contribution to it. So indeed, it's already on. There are experts from abroad, contribution from other museums as well. So this is going on. But it's been going on for a while, so we'll see how long it will take, considering that the Holocaust Memorial in Bucharest, which is a monument, took about 4 years to get finally built. So we'll see how long the museum will take. But it's on, so at some point it will be finished and it will be functional. In relation to the project of the Association of Romanian Jews Victims of the Holocaust, of course, first of all, this refers to children's testimonies. That is, people who were children at the time, who are still alive today and can tell their stories from their childhood. Secondly, because they survived, they also have positive examples. People who helped them survive, what made them survive in the camps. For instance, Oliver Lustig, who survived in Auschwitz and several other camps in Poland and Germany, relates that although he was very small, he was a small man until the end of his life. He was very short. He was a very frail child. He actually always gave half of his food to his older brother, who was much bigger and much stronger, because being stronger, he found it far harder to survive without food. So this is a positive example of what you do in such circumstances. So their stories always have something positive that can be used as examples. And we're not talking, of course, about testimonies about all the negative sides of the story, but also about the positive things that made it possible for them to survive. In terms of the representations, now the answer is that these theatrical experiments that I've been showing you here are meant to make people think, are not necessarily meant to be a reproduction of the testimonies in a certain environment, but they are meant to make people think about the lessons of the Holocaust today. And this is, again, the educational aspect of theater. It's not really theater. That's why it's educational theater and experimental theater. They are not real theater plays. We have theater plays related to the Holocaust, but they are fictional or anyway using the information about the Holocaust in a more artistic way. But these experiments that I showed you are based literally on testimonies, and they are trying to make the testimonies relevant for today. So this is the point, and they are indeed succeeding in the sense that all the spectators in these shows really come up with very interesting reactions, very interesting results. It really makes them think about the way they react to today's stories. The lessons of the Holocaust being applicable to what is happening today, not just to remember the past, but also what does the past teach us to do now and in the future. Thank you.
Well, I think we can see from these 4 excellent and thought-provoking papers that one of the continuing themes that testimonies are produced in a certain context. There are certain factors that influence their production, and of course they're always received, interpreted, analyzed in a certain context, and this will constantly evolve and shift over time. So it gives us a glimpse really into the future of Holocaust testimonies. So please join me in thanking our panelists for an excellent concluding panel.
We were wondering how many years we will still talk about the future of Holocaust testimonies. We did one conference, then we did 2 years later another one, and 2 years later another one. Now, with Wolf, we were talking about the next one in 2019, 3 years from now. And we'll still be talking probably about the future of Holocaust testimonies, because this is obviously becoming a major, a more central issue than it was before. Not only because, like we repeat as mantras, that the survivors are passing away, but because this is really the only chance we have to tell a good, relevant story of the Holocaust through the eyes of its victims, and to liberate the story of the Holocaust from the perpetrators. So the only way we can do it is through testimonies. This is what the people in the historical commissions understood, that they have to have testimonies for this. I've written a lot about this. And I feel here when we got the applications for the conference, we turned away a lot of good applications. This subject is not dying out, it's growing. People are thinking more, exploring more, showing the richness of historical evidence there is in testimonies, showing the amazing ways of interpreting testimonies now in art or in education. We saw amazing things. People are thinking again about the issue of authenticity is becoming stronger because we are also willing to say, like Gideon said today, that this is one witness he will not stop interviewing. We know there is a corruption of testimonies over time. And people who do tour guides to Poland talk about this a lot because you see people are repeating stories and things happen on the way. So we can talk about this freely. This is not against survivors. This is not against telling the story of the Holocaust. We are able now, we have a much more mature ability to talk about testimonies. And this is all thanks to you all, to all the work that is done by researchers who attended this conference, prior conferences. And it seems that we will still have some possibilities of doing future of Holocaust testimony conferences in the future. I'll just say that once we sent out the call for papers, we received two proposals from book publishers, good publishers, to do a volume following the conference. If you ask me if we have the energy for this or the ability, I don't know. But this also shows that there is interest in this. I'm talking about two academic but private publishing houses who are interested in this. So there is an interest, and someone will have to raise this glove maybe. But it shows that this issue is hot, is important, and that there is still a lot to do. So I can only wish you all to keep doing what you do, with all the energy that you do, with all the ability that you show, and we'll meet again in this conference or that, and keep on discussing these amazing. I met a lot of new people here, which I didn't know. Some of you I knew before, of course, and I've just started talking to you, and I have so much to hear and learn, so probably we'll have to meet for coffee on the way across the world. Thank you very much, and see you.